leader in motorsports coverage, presents Speed World. Today from Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, SCCA Trans Am Racing being brought to you by Budweiser, proud sponsor of the 1988 U.S. Olympic team. This Bud's for you. And by Lincoln, what a luxury car should be. We're in the heartland of America, in central Wisconsin, Elkhart Lake to be exact, a beautiful 4-mile road course. And today, SCCA Trans Am Racing. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bob Jenkins, and welcome to what they call 4 miles of fun, the road course here at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Today, SCCA Trans Am Racing. Now, Audi has already clinched the manufacturer's crown for 1988. However, a couple of races ago, they were handicapped. They won, however, last weekend at Mid-Ohio, but that was in the rain. Totally different set of circumstances here this afternoon. Now, Johnny Rutherford will be working with me in the booth today, Johnny. Could this be an equalizer here this weekend?
Well, I think it obviously is. The Audis are starting 4th and 8th on the grid, which is a little out of context for them. They usually are on the front row, but they have been running on short courses, I think, all season. More suited to their type of chassis, the 4-wheel drive. This is a long racetrack, 4 miles around, long straightaways. You've got to have some legs to get around here fast, and this may be the point where Audi gets caught up with.
The guy who'll set on the pole for today has only won once this year. However, he's won 5 pole positions. For more on that, let's go to the pit area and Larry Newber.
Well, if there is a team that has been slightly disappointed with the results of this Trans Am season, it's the one sitting right behind me. How can you say a team that's sitting on the pole for the 5th time this year, has 1 win and is currently ranked 3rd in the point standings, is being disappointed? Well, its driver, Scott Pruitt, planned on winning the Trans Am Championship this season. It hasn't worked out that way. He performs this weekend right in front of the same Indianapolis car teams that he drove for a week ago at Mid-Ohio. It's a very important weekend for him, as is important for this driver, Darren Brasfield. They have shelved their Indy car to concentrate on this Trans Am for this weekend. A lot of people are giving him a great deal of sentiment as a potential winner here this weekend at Elkhart Lake. Well, Gary Lee is standing by with another team that is treading that very thin line between ecstasy and disappointment.
Well, Larry, the driver that starts outside the front row this season has meant success breeds frustration. Irv Harris second in the points. That's really where he wanted to be as far as the point standings, only 22 behind Hurley Haywood, but he hasn't won yet. He's finished second 3 times. In an effort to gain more horsepower, they've gone from the V6 to the V8 this weekend. They've had to add 50 pounds, but they pick up about 70 horsepower. They like the trade-off. And starting right behind him outside the second row is Hans Stuck in the Audi. He's won 4 times this season. So at least at the start, we could say the Audi Rabbit will be chasing the Hare.
42 cars are getting set to go on this 4-mile road course here at Road America. This track has been around for 33 years, sits on 525 acres, and here's Johnny Rutherford.
And now we'll take you on a lap around the course here at Road America. Elkhart Lake, this is a 4-mile course, one of the longest, in fact, the longest course in the United States. And here we have an in-car camera down the front straightaway heading toward turn number 1, which is a very fast right-hand turn, nearly 90 degrees. You come from inside to outside, hard on the throttle. It's a downhill slightly to the right-hand straight, the Goodyear straight, into a tight right-hander at the bottom, which you have to downshift for, get ready, and from one side of the road to the other, out onto the back straightaway under the bridge.
And Johnny, right here, we're going to move from bright sunlight into some shade. Does that present a problem?
It can sometimes, Bob, because if it's very dark shade or if the sun is particularly bright, you have a problem. There we see into a tight left-hander at the bottom of the hill. A lot of passing done here. You can see the marks on the pavement. This is uphill a little more than it looks like from the in-car camera, into a hard left-hander, which you try to get around as fast as you possibly can to carry speed to get through this turn. Down a straightaway again into probably the most wide open portion of the course. And if you miscue here and get off, you can slide forever. Hard left-hander heading down a short straightaway toward the carousel, which is a downhill constant radius turn. You're really leaning on the tires here. The car is doing its job, and you're asking it a lot, because you come around out onto the straightaway heading toward the kink.
Now, there are a couple of sweeping corners here, but this is the area that you really stand on the gas.
Yes, you can go flat, nearly flat through these, depending on how your car is set up. shifting gears, getting into the top gear, heading down toward Canada Corner, which is very, very fast. And this is probably one of the hardest places here for braking. You've got to brake just right. You can get off of the course very easily there. A right-hand turn uphill, another right-hand kink, left hand back under the bridge. This is very quick, flat-footed through here, heading down a straightaway toward turn number 14, the last turn on the course, as we head up the front straightaway again, past the pits, and you've completed a lap at Road America.
They call it 4 miles of fun. Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. That's a lap, and we will have our starting lineup for today's Trans Am race right after this. ESPN Speed World today at Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin for SCCA Trans Am Racing, the round number 11 of the 1988 series. Now let's check the starting lineup for today's event. On the pole will be Scott Pruitt driving the car number 1 Stroh-Lite XR4TI, qualifying at 109.477. To his outside will be Irv Hare in car number 15, the Hare Olds Cutlass. In the second row will be Darren Brasfield of the number 38 Summit Racing Corvette, and Hans Stuck in car number 14, one of the Audi Quattros that will be competing here this afternoon. In row number 3 will be Ron Fellows in car number 4 and Mike Chisuli in 16. The fourth row has Willie T. Ribbs driving car number 80 and Hurley Haywood in number 44. That's another one of the Audis. In the fifth row, Paul Newman in car number 33 and Len St. James in number 2. The sixth row consists of Jack Baldwin in 89 and Les Lindley in number 8. The seventh row, Paul Gentilossi and Chris Neifel. Row number 8, Jim Derhog and Bruce Nesbitt. In the ninth row, Jerry Clinton and Dick Danielson. 10th row, R.K. Smith and Bob Robb. Row number 11, Rick Dittman and Deborah Gregg. The 12th row, Jerry Kuhn and Bruce Jenner. Starting in row 13, Philip Bartelt and Les Lindley. The 14th row, Russ Newman and Donald Sack. The 15th row, Andy Porterfield and Chip Boatwright. John Schneider and Michael Kehoe start in row number 16. The 17th row, Scott Shadell in number 36 and Bob Zeeb in 62. Row 18, Leonard Jenke and Frank Perchik. The 19th row, Brett Kaufman in 73 and Tim Taylor in 61. The 20th row, Bill Fuller and Glenn Andrew. In row number 21, Danny May and R.J. Valentine. The 22nd row, Peter Demon and Scott Sharp. Now, there have been some late scratches just as the cars rolled onto the grid. Number 77, R.K. Smith, and one of the Berettas will not be going. Bruce Jenner in number 11 cannot start the race, and Brett Kaufman in car number 73 has also been scratched at the last moment. So the cars now proceed around corner number 14, and they'll come down the straightaway here and should be getting a start for this afternoon's 25-lap, 100-mile SCCA Trans Am race here at Road America. The green flag is out, and here we go.
We had an excellent start there. Both front row cars dead side by side, so this ought to be a dandy getting down into the first turn.
They try to go through there in single file formation. Scott Pruitt has grabbed the lead from Irv Hare. Let's watch the other cars file through turn number 1. And you can see that Scott Pruitt still has the lead, but now it looks like that Darren Brasfield has taken over that second position from Irv Hare as the other 41 starters file through turns number 2 and 3. Now they're in that portion of the racetrack that we call the backstretch, which is 2,400 feet long, side-by-side racing here. There you can see that Irv Hare in car number 14 has taken second place. And look at the Audi, the number 14 car of Hans Stuck now is in second place. And Irv Hare moves to third, while Brasfield drops back to fourth. So as we mentioned in your track description, Johnny, that is indeed the place where we're going to see a lot of passing this afternoon.
Yes, we saw them 3 wide there, and that gets very exciting because you saw a little bump and run, and that's what this racing is all about.
Mike Chisuli also moving up well, but watch the Audi there on the inside.
Yes, the Corvette gets the squeeze in the middle and gets sandwich between 2 cars. Irv gets bumped off to the outside a little bit, which was misfortune for him, but that's the way it is. It gets a little close in that corner.
So Scott Pruitt is a leader, and we have a car that has gotten off the course, unable to see the number on the car at the moment. He is backing up, trying to get it headed in the right direction and to get back in the competition. But meanwhile, on the racetrack itself, that's Scott Pruitt leading the race. The Audi of Hans Stuck running in second position, and then Darren Brasfield running in third.
This is that Canada corner where you can You can get off just as easy as you can go through it fast, and the cars look very good there, very stable with cold tires.
They move through corner number 14 and are about to complete lap number 1. Close race there for second position as Brasfield once again tries to take second from Hans Stuck in car number 14. Here they come up the hill and about to cross the start-finish line to complete lap number 1. Good battle for second position. Brasfield has taken over second. Right at the line, he edges ahead just a little bit of the Audi. Let's see who wins the battle into the corner. They're side by side headed for turn number 1, and Brasfield in the Corvette has second position.
Yes, he just flat braved him into the corner there, and that's something for Stuck because he's one of the bravest. I think it's a little early in the race to see any real heavy dicing, although we've seen quite a bit here. It's interesting. These guys are all have something at stake here, so it makes for a good race.
We mentioned the restrictions, the handicaps that were placed on the Audis a couple of races ago. Specifically, they were given 200 extra pounds. They were restricted on the turbo boost, and they are forced to run reduced tire width. So those are the handicaps placed on the Audis. But again, last week when they were at Mid-Ohio, that all-wheel drive that the Audis have was a real benefit for them in the wet conditions. But it's certainly not wet here this weekend. We've had beautiful weather throughout the entire weekend here at Road America. And there's the Audi of Hans Stuck, car number 14, running in third position. And the fourth place car right behind him is the number 15 car driven by Irv Hare.
I think the Audi will probably shine a little bit in the back portion of the course here because it is kind of tight and twisty, and that's where they really come forward.
The number 80 car, the yellow machine, is Willie T. Ribbs, and he has just passed Mike Chasuli, who is in the team car to Irv Hare. So Willie T. Ribbs, who has indeed won a race this year in Trans Am competition at Detroit, is beginning to move his way up and thread through the field. You'll see the cars get off once in a while, as I think one of them did there, kick up a little dust, but that really will create no major problems unless there's a lot of dust and the visibility becomes bad.
And that's just called using up the road.
There's the number 4 car. That is Ron Fellows, the Canadian, right ahead of Willie T. Ribbs here in car number 80. Fellows driving one of the Mercury XR4 TIs for Jack Roush. This is his first Trans Am race, having run most of the year up in Canada in the Porsche Challenge Series. There's Irv Hare in car number 15. He's from Peoria, Illinois, in the Hare Olds Cutlass. And here are Scott Pruitt and Darren Brasfield, and it's a pretty good race as Brasfield now has closed right up on the back bumper of that Stroh light machine, making it a battle. However, Brasfield is unable to go into the top position as Scott Pruitt continues to set the pace.
That's two of the new young lions in this sport coming on. Very strong. Scott Pruitt, Darren Brasfield, both young, new talents, and they're very, very good, both of them.
They go up the hill, crossing under the Briggs and Stratton Bridge. Now they come down the portion of the racetrack that's referred to as the Moraine Sweep or the backstretch, 2,400 feet in length. And then it's hard onto the brakes going into corner number 5.
There's a lot of slide-off area to the right of this turn as you come through it, and before the day's over, we'll see some cars out there taking a little excursion, I'm sure.
Off into the rumble strips there for Scott Pruitt and Darren Brasfield. But that's just using, as Johnny said, as much of the racetrack as is available to you. Downshifting now as Scott Pruitt continues to hold on, but Brasfield is right there looking for a slight bobble from Scott Pruitt that will allow him to go into the lead. There he is, closing up once again on Pruitt.
It's an interesting part of the course because you can usually tell whose car is working the best by how they come through the carousel, and there you can see Brasfield close up on Pruitt, so he must be getting through there with a little more grip.
Both of these machines are running the V8 engines. And, of course, the Audi is a turbocharged machine. And there you can see the Audi lagging behind just a little bit in third position. You know, we talk about parity in IndyCar racing and how great the racing has been in that division. But as we went into this contest here this afternoon, there were 6 or 8, maybe even 10 drivers that were very, very capable of winning this race. seen some good competition in this series this year. Hurley Haywood, of course, is the points leader, but only 22 behind. In second is Irv Hare. Scott Pruitt is third in points, only 35 behind Hurley Haywood. And in fourth position is Hans Stuck with a total of 83 markers. Brassfield continuing to stalk Scott Pruitt at the end of the front stretch. Still, it is Pruitt that holds on to the lead. We're at Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin for SCCA Trans Am Racing. They're the top 5. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. I'm Bob Jenkins, along with Johnny Rutherford, Gary Lee, and Larry Nuber for SCCA Trans Am Racing. There's the number 6 car, Russ Newman, the Oftendal Racing Buick Regal that has a flat, it appears, on the left front of that car.
Looks like he's broken the left front suspension because it's towed out terribly, and of course it's dragging. That's what the smoke is, we see. And I don't know if he'll try to drive it all the way around or if he'll pull it off in the grass and park it for the day.
So Russ Newman, car number 6, has some problems and will drop out of competition. Meanwhile, here is Scott Pruitt and Darren Brassfield once again, as Brassfield has caught up with Pruitt now, moving to the inside and passing one of the slower cars as they head down the front stretch, completing lap number 6. Jack Baldwin was into the pits a few minutes ago. Gary Lee, what was the problem?
Well, actually, he had a punctured left rear tire. You can see it circled right here. He lost the air, so he brought it in and changed. A very costly pit stop for Jack Baldwin. During that pit stop, I was down talking with Irv Hare's dad, Rudy, and apparently there's a bit of strategy being played out right now in the Irv Hare Oldsmobile. He is very content to ride in the cradle back there and forth because he wants to keep Hans Stuck in sight, but he thinks that perhaps Darren Brassfield and Scott Pruitt will burn each other's tires up. So his major concern right now is Willie T. Ribbs, because Willie's driving a V6, a lighter car. He's watching for Willie to come up, riding a very conservative pace, waiting for the other drivers to burn their tires up.
Well, that's something we have not talked about, Johnny, and let's talk about it. Tire wear on these cars.
Well, yes, and there's another one. They've got a flat on the left front of Philip Barton there. It's something we hadn't really thought about was the tire wear, I guess, and it had not been a factor. No one's really talked about it much, but maybe they haven't run long stretches, to where they could find out exactly what the tire wear, what the problems might be.
Looks like Bartelt also had a problem with his tire there on the left front. Meanwhile, back on the racetrack, there are the first 3, and here is the 4th place car of Irv Hare. There is Hare coming up to pass one of the slower cars. The first 3 have separated themselves a little bit from Irv Hare now, still running in that 4th position. Here comes Irv in the Oldsmobile. Down the fastest part of the racetrack. Now in the Canada corner once again.
Might be that he's trying to run a little conservative because of the tire problems. They may know that they can't pressure that hard and run as hard as the leaders are, and it'll be interesting to watch to see what develops here, because that's with all of the tire problems suddenly. I don't know whether it's punctures or whether it's just something that they've gone through them. But I would think that it wouldn't be that they'd gone through or worn the tires this quickly.
7 laps are now completed out of 25 that will make up this 100-mile SCCA Trans Am race that we're televising for you here on ESPN this afternoon. Scott Pruitt continuing to lead Darren Brassfield. Hans Stuck is 3rd. Willie T. Ribbs runs in 4th, and Mike Chisuli is in 5th. We'll be right back in just a moment.
Oh, yeah, you got a leak here, somewhere in the wall. I just hope I can get to it before it gets too bad.
At times like this, now you can choose this. New Maximum Strength Pepto-Bismol. Now there's twice the medicine, twice the Pepto.
To those who fearlessly accept the challenge of car care, Kmart dedicates the following. A solid brass engine oil drain valve at the everyday low price of $9.97. You can't lose at the Auto Center at Kmart, the saving place and more.
It's much more than a shot in the dark. The celebrities love it, and we think you'll love it too. Star Shot, the Clay Target shooting game, Friday night at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN.
We're at Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin for SCCA Trans Am Racing. I'm Bob Jenkins along with Johnny Rutherford, Gary Lee, and Larry Newber. So Brassfield in car number 88 continues to run in second spot. Hans Stuck is in third. First three cars are running right together. They're coming over the crest of the hill is the number 15 car driven by Irv here. He continues to run in fourth. Darren Brassfield has had 3 top 5 finishes. Third at Dallas, a fourth at Niagara Falls, and a second at Lime Rock this year. There is Paul Newman in car number 33, running ahead of the 44 car, the points leader in Trans Am competition, Hurley Haywood, and right behind him is the number 2 car, driven by Lynn St. James. Now, there's the other Audi, the number 44 car, driven by Haywood, and that is a turbocharged, actually 2 turbocharged cars here running together. The 44 car of Haywood is a turbo car, as is Lynn St. James.
And the Newman car is also turbocharged. So he's got the 3 there with Newman leading the pack, and the passing slower cars working. You know, I think there's a conservative feel here that I can see where they're trying to save the tires and not really push. Of course, Hurley wants to finish, and he always does well. Hurley does this. This is his MO. He starts the race, sets back, and waits until the last, maybe last third of the race, and then suddenly he makes a move and pulls right up into contention. That's where he gets all of his points. That's why he's leading the point standings at this point.
And the car right behind Lynn St. James is a V8 Firebird, the number 72 machine, being driven by Chris Neifel, who, of course, was active in Indy cars for a while. Les Lindley in the number 8 car has gone off course. This is the team car, of course, to the one that's being driven this afternoon by Willie T. Ribbs. Ribbs drives number 80, and Les Lindley has car number 8. And Les Lindley came into this race 5th in the point standings. Another one of those very consistent competitors in Trans Am competition. Hasn't won a race, but has come close. His best finish of the year has been 4th, and he's done that on 2 different occasions. Larry?
In regards to Les Lindley, it's particularly disappointing for him to drop out of this place, because remember, a year ago here at Elkhart Lake, it's probably where he came the most close to ever winning a Trans Am race. He's been a real solid competitor for the past 2 seasons, and this is the track that right now he feels probably the most confident on. So really a big blow for Les.
Lindley is off course and is no longer a threat to win this race, as we watch 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and now Irv Hare has closed in on the 14 car of Hans Stuck in 3rd position.
Les Lindley, getting back to him a little bit, he is always a very consistent competitor. He's always there. You look at the final standings of these races, and Les with his yellow number 8 is always right up in there.
Les Lindley competed in all 12 Trans Am races in 1987 and has been in all 10 so far this year. Ranking 5th in the driver's points with 81. 2nd and 3rd right here, Brassfield and Hans Stuck. Stuck, probably one of the most congenial guys that I've ever met in racing. He's from West Germany, of course, has a little bit of an accent, although he speaks fluent English, and is just a real nice guy to talk to. Always has something interesting to say.
He's really pushing that Audi up on the back bumper there. You see that Corvette again gets through that carousel extremely well. It's got a wide stance. It has a wide tire track, and so the thing is, I think, a little bit more stable through there and able to run a little harder. Here's through the kink flat out, and we'll get back into that tight part of the course again, where the Audi wants to excel and pull up into it. Four-wheel drive gets right in there.
Working some of the slower traffic, passing the number 17 car driven by Mike Kehoe of Waukesha, Wisconsin, not too far from Road America. Irv Hare continuing to run in 4th position. Behind the leader Pruitt, Brassfield, and Hans Stuck. Back to a battle going on further back on the racetrack. 33 is Paul Newman, the 44 car driven by Hurley Haywood, and the number 2 machine driven by Lynn St. James, and Chris Neifel is also right St. James, of course, will be trying to break a record not too long from now down at Talladega in the 1989 version of the Thunderbird, and she is probably the fastest woman alive. And we asked her earlier in the weekend, this mare Coeur Chassis is the fast to have on this particular racetrack.
I never like to single out racetracks and say, well, I'm better here, or the chassis is better here, or the team's better here. You like to go into every race thinking that you've got a good chance and you're going to try your best and it'll come out good. But I think Scott's actually right. You got to learn. All of a sudden, history starts to show you differently, you know. And the XR4 TI is really running well here. The turbo power is very well suited here, and Scott's been helping me. I had a good third-place finish at Long Beach the first race of the season, and I've had a good season maybe, but a rough season, ups and downs, and some bad luck, and not as competitive in some racetracks as I'd like to be.
Lynn St. James is currently running in 10th position in that number 2 car, sponsored by Secret and owned by the Jack Roush team. Ahead of her, Hurley Haywood is in 9th, and Paul Newman runs in 8th position. Meanwhile, back up front, it is still Scott Pruitt who continues to lead this race in the number 1 Stroh Light Machine. And there, once again, we see 2nd, 3rd, and 4th as Brassfield continues to hold off the challenge of the Audi driven by Hans Stuck, and Herb Hare in the Oldsmobile is also right there. So this, without question, our best race on the track as Scott Pruitt begins to pull away from the others. There is Pruitt headed for corner number 14 and about to complete lap number 14. The average speed 107.353, and we'll be back in just a moment. We are back at Elkhart Lake and Road America, and the battle for second place continues, but the standings are just a little bit different than they were when we went away for break. Stuck has passed Darren Brassfield and is now running in 2nd. Brassfield back to 3rd, and Herb Hare is also right there in the number 15 car in 4th spot. These guys are really going at it out there, while Scott Pruitt has about a 5-second lead on Stuck.
Scott Pruitt has really pulled out to a nice, comfortable lead. The way these guys are running and going at it, they can gobble that up in no time if Scott has a problem with a tire or anything. So it's still the race back here in 2nd place, that's for sure.
Stuck looking for his 5th consecutive victory in races entered. He did not enter the Lime Rock event, did not compete in it, but he has won the last 4 that he has competed in. And there is Chris Neifel, who has climbed out of the number 72 Olivetti Trans Am and is out of competition. Once in a while, you'll be able to hear a little bit of a chirp. That is the turbocharger that you hear from the Audi.
A little compressor stall. Whenever they back off and change the pressure on the thing with the shifting, it chirps like that. It gives a little overspeed.
Once again, they're passing some of the slower cars. Stuck 14, Brassfield 88, and Herb Hare now has dropped back just a little bit on Brassfield. Let's show you how exactly Hans Stuck got 2nd place from Brassfield.
He was taking Brassfield around a slower car there. That didn't seem to be any factor, but he was able to get into the right spot, make the pass. That's classic. He's up on the inside. Through there, uses up all of the road right out to the edge on the bump strip and made the pass.
Now we'll see if he can close in on the leader, Pruitt. As we indicated, Scott has over a 5-second lead now. And look at this. Brassfield is making a bid for the 2nd position again. Let's see who wins the battle into turn number 1. It's going to be Brassfield.
Oh, it looked like Hans didn't see him there for an instant. That little short-legged Corvette's down pretty low, and he made the pass on him. So he's still got the muscle, and his tires are still working out.
And it looked like that Hans just didn't want to give up that spot. He waited until the very last minute and said, okay, Darren, you've got the line, so you can have 2nd position. Now, there's the leader. That's the interval between 1st and 2nd.
As hard as those guys are going back there, battling for that 2nd spot, they might close the gap.
We see, of course, radio communications in just about every form of racing. Do they use the radio communications in Trans Am also?
Yes, very much so. In fact, they'll even have it sometimes between team cars so they can keep up with one another and be on the same frequency. But this particular situation, we're looking at here, I'm sure those guys aren't worried about radios at this point. They're just racing.
Boy, they are racing tooth and nail. Look at this. Look at Stook tried it again. Couldn't get it on the inside. Brassfield holds him off. Well, Gary Lee is down in the pit area with a story concerning radio communications.
Well, Bob and Johnny, I love the invention of the radio because frequently we can go to a crew chief and say, what is your driver saying? Earlier this season in an IndyCar race, we went to Dick Simon and asked Dick to call his driver, Arie Luyendyk, for a track report, which he's did. We come down to Darren Brassfield's pit. I said, what's his strategy? Is he going for it? Is he back in the cradle conserving tires? They said, well, we really don't know because he's not talking and doesn't want us to talk to him. So some drivers, despite the fact they have the communications, don't want to use it. They have too much on their mind to talk.
Well, when you are in the heat of the battle, I'm sure the last thing you want to do is think about what to say and keying the mic and everything. You're concerned about the guy either ahead of you or behind you.
You're very busy out there, and sometimes whenever you're racing like these two guys are, it gets to be pretty dicey, and you can't take the time to take the thoughts to talk to the crew and answer their questions and decipher what they're saying because it's just too busy.
Well, let's talk about parity here a little bit. Do you see the Audis now, and since they're running with the Oldsmobile and the Corvette, has SCCA made them equal to the other cars now, you think?
Well, it certainly appears that way. They're not dominating and driving off into the sunset, as it were, but it's very hard to say. This long racetrack can give you different answers, different, raise different questions. So, there we are. Herb Hare has pulled off of the course onto the grass there at turn 3. Don't know whether he slid off or whether he's got a problem.
Well, there was a little bit of fire coming from the exhaust, but that really doesn't mean a major problem as Herb Hare, car number 15, who was running 4th, gets back onto the racetrack and now will try to salvage as many positions as he can. But there comes Willie T. Ribbs, and Willie T. now moves into that 4th spot. A tough break for Herb because he was hanging right in there with those two running right ahead of him. There is Ribbs in car number 80. That's the Findlay Racing Camaro. Willie started this race in 7th position and now finds himself in 4th with Herb Hare sliding off course.
Willie is an extremely tough competitor in this. Now Herb Hare is back off the course again. He might have some real problems. I don't know whether he's just driver. He's got a handling problem with the car that causes him to have to. Maybe his brakes are out or something. But anyway, here we have Hurley Haywood sitting back in there, and the other Audi who is doing his normal job. He sits back there, like I say, and waits, and when he thinks it's time in the last third of that race, he'll make his move and pull up in there. Here he's racing with Paul Newman, putting the pressure on Paul a little bit, so I'm sure we'll see him make a move to try to go by Paul shortly.
And there, once again, is second as Stook has taken over the 2nd position from Brassfield, so they continue to dice it out. And while all this is happening, Scott Pruitt continues to pull away just a little bit. But a great race here for 2nd position. We have seen Stook and Brassfield going at it ever since the green flag dropped. First one will have the 2nd position, then the other. This is where Darren passed him a couple of laps ago to take away 2nd spot, but that slower car there, Donald Sack in car number 97. Oh, and he's there's a dirt track in there.
Yeah, right out, all of it. That's all of the road you can use.
But that all-wheel drive may have saved him. And look at this. The number 88 car of Brassfield may have a problem. He is slowing dramatically on the racetrack.
Yes, I'd say that's he's definitely out of it. There's some problem.
Darren Brassfield, after battling in the first 14 or 15 laps with Hans Stook, has a problem. That car now is limping around the racetrack.
It appeared there was something under the right front corner of the car, either flapping or bouncing on the ground. I'm not sure whether he's got a suspension problem up there or whether it's just a baffle. Here's Herb Hare in the pits, coming in to try to find out what his problem is.
So we have seen problems in the number 3 position and the number 4 spot. Let's go to the pit area.
We talked to Rudy here. That is Herb's dad. He said he broke a line, but he ran back away because the car was about to come in. So we're not sure exactly what he broke. The right rear has come off. They're looking inside the right rear area under the quarter panel. So we're not sure exactly what line. an oil leak apparently. Now the hood comes off. So some major problems in Irv Hare's chance at victory here, a chance to close in the point standings.
And there is the Irv Hare car. And they're working on it. Now let's go back and watch Stuck getting way out of shape. Maybe we can tell here what happened to Brassfield.
Yeah, Brassfield holds a low line. Something happened as he entered that turn. And evidently the car faltered, or it might have quit, backfired on him, or something happened. But he was out when he entered that first turn.
Well, the explanation on what Irv Hare's problem is, he apparently has had a rock go through the oil cooler, and therefore a leak has developed on that car. So Irv Hare sits in the pits and could very well be out of this race. There's the leader, Scott Pruitt from Roseville, California.
He is driving the perfect race to this point. His car has been very smooth, very straight. He's not abusing it any, and he's pulling away.
Of course, Scott was the 1987 SCCA Trans Am Drivers Champion. He got his start in auto racing through the go-karts. In fact, he won 13 amateur go-kart and 10 pro go-kart championships before he moved into professional racing. There are the top 5 with 16 of 25 laps completed. Back in a moment. Quick Facts are brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
You're looking at the Turbo Boost control knob. Now, the Audis in which I am sitting are not the only Trans Am cars that use turbochargers. Paul Newman's Nissan has one, as does a couple of Jack Roush cars. A typical boost for Trans Am cars is 3 bars, or 3 times atmospheric pressure. That compares to Indianapolis cars by about 2-fold. Indianapolis cars measure their boost in inches, and this turbo boost on a Trans Am car is about twice that. Indianapolis drivers, as well as Formula One drivers, can adjust their boost during the running of the race. Trans Am drivers can also, but only during practice. After that, this device is removed, and what you start with is what you have to race with.
And let's see how the turbo cars are doing. They're running 2nd, 4th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. As we are now into lap number 19. Now, this is not one of the turbo cars. This is Scott Pruitt in car number 1, who is the leader of this race. Second place, however, Hans Stuck is in one of the turbos, of course, the Audi. And you can see that Scott has had a pretty easy road so far, having led all 19 laps so far, but we're still a few laps away from the finish. And Darren Brassfield, who ran 2nd for a while, then went back to 3rd, and then came into the pits. Gary Lee, what was wrong?
Well, the crew was explaining there was a miss in that Corvette. He came in, they explained there is a backup ignition system. They took the hood off, then took the top of the dash away. They went to the backup with a toggle switch for backup ignition. They also said, and perhaps Johnny can explain this further, they took a chip away. Apparently they have a rev limiter on the car. They removed that chip. He went out, but apparently still has a problem.
Yeah, that chip is part of the electronics. You know, the modern day cars have computerized systems in them, and they have a chip that can make the car do just about anything you want it to, as far as the air ratio and the carburetor and the injectors and everything else. So they obviously took that out, thinking that might be a miss.
Number 97 car of Donald Sack from West Bloomfield, Michigan. The Quality Construction Corvette has pulled off the track. It looks like there's a little bit of flame coming from the engine of that car.
He's getting frantic there. He's waving now. Now it looks like he's wanting them to come put the thing out. He's not going to get out of the car, and I don't blame him, because that's and it's getting a little bit bigger.
Yeah, it's that car is just barely off the racetrack.
Hopefully his starter might still work and he can pull the flame back down in, unless it's a superficial.
Now the corner workers arrive with a fire extinguisher, and yeah, he is getting out of the car. That doesn't look like
I think the flame, I think he was able to get it out. Yep. Or it went out on its own. It might have just been a little oil in the valley or something there that caught fire, but it looks like he's okay, except he's in an awfully precarious position.
Yeah, he is, and because of that, SCCA informs us that the pace car is standing by, so we could have an overall yellow here if the SCCA officials determine that car is indeed in too precarious a position and needs to be gotten off the racetrack. There you can see the corner workers heading for drier ground as that car got
ground. Yes, definitely. Hans Stuck came whizzing by there a little bit close.
Now, Paul Newman in car number 33. Watch what happens here. We understand that the engine may have let go on that car. He's slow.
Yeah, you can see there's the smoke and the oil, and that ought to be very slick right there right now. Paul, fortunately for the other guys, has really slowed the car down as much as he could and gotten it off course, but he still left a lot of oil there.
And you know, we hear that this could have very well been Paul Newman's last Trans Am race. The team was funded through this race, and he apparently may be getting out of this division next year and be concentrating on the endurance racing, the showroom stock racing. So that could be the swan song for Paul Newman in Trans Am competition. But it's certainly not the swan song for Scott Pruitt. He's got about 5 more laps to go before he takes the checkered flag, but certainly looks like he has this event in hand. Mario Andretti watches the Trans Am from Road America. With 22 laps completed of the 25 that make up this SCCA Trans Am race here at Road America, the leader continues to be Scott Pruitt. He has led since the drop of the green flag, and he has watched attrition behind him. Now, we've had a good battle on the track involving the number 44 car and the 16, Chisuli and Haywood.
Haywood made the pass there, got by, and Chisuli was giving hot chase, but I think the Audi was just a little bit too much for him, and he pulled away.
So we now have the Audis running in 2nd and in 5th position. And there is the leader, Scott Pruitt.
Boy, that car really looks like it's operating. It looks like it would be fun to drive.
One of those cars that you would like to have on any particular day. This will be Scott's 2nd win of the year if he should pull off the victory and continue the race that he has been running. The 2nd place machine, there it is, of Hans Stuck. You can see the interval between 1st and 2nd. And right now, Pruitt has a rather comfortable lead on Hans Stuck. The 3rd place car driven by Willie T. Ribbs. And if he should continue to run in that position and finish in 3rd, he will set a record for money earned during a career. So Willie T. Looking to pick up some major bucks here in this competition.
Money earned, is that money earned in Trans Am?
In Trans Am, correct. Yep.
There's Stuck. I'm sure he's, with as few laps as there are left, he's starting to make a dash trying to close the gap between he and Pruitt, because if, you know, that would be a real feather in their hat to win here at Elkhart Lake with the Audi, because they've been running strong all day.
I think, though, that with only 2 more laps to go, 23 have been completed, Hans may be ready to concede at this point, although this is a long racetrack and certainly anything that can happen, but Stuck has a bit of a deficit right now to make up on Pruitt.
He's picked up something there on either his air dam on the front is dragging, or he's picked up something on the racetrack when he moved over to make that pass.
And of course, there are slower cars between himself and Scott Pruitt. Now the number 63 car, Dick Danielson, moves over. Can you tell what it is?
Yeah, I can't tell. It looks like he scooped something up that was on the track when he moved out to the inside lane to pass, and he was dragging it all the way down the hill. So there we can see, you can't tell if it's a piece of junk from another car or if it is a piece of his car.
And you can also hear the turbo chirping as Hans Stuck runs in 2nd position, trying to close in on the leader, Scott Pruitt. We'll be back with more of the SCCA Trans Am race right after this from Road America. Back for the closing laps of the Trans Am race from Road America, and Scott Pruitt continues to set the pace. 2nd is Hans Stuck. Running in 3rd position is Willie T. Ribbs. 4th is Ron Fellows. And 5th is Hurley Haywood. Now, Lee White is the team manager on this car, driven by Scott Pruitt. Larry?
Lee has also been keeping track of Scott's lap times. Pretty consistent. Only lap traffic has slowed him down.
Well, that's always the situation here at Elkhart Lake. The cars start to get slow, the brakes go bad, and everything starts to taper off. Scott's holding a fairly consistent margin of about 4 to 5 seconds on Hans, and we're optimistic that he doesn't get caught out by some traffic and lose that on the last lap.
I know that collectively your biggest concerns were that the Audis were sandbagging, as we say in racing, all weekend, holding back. Are you surprised that you guys have been as competitive against them as you have been today?
Not at all.
This is the last lap, and they're very, very confident down here. A lot of very quiet and confident smiling going on.
Well, in the opening of the show, we talked about how Scott Pruitt needed a good showing. He is not driving in the IndyCar race this week as he did at Mid-Ohio, but he put on a fine performance at Mid-Ohio last week. And he has thoughts about 1989 and IndyCars. And the IndyCar teams are standing around watching this race today, and somebody may be impressed by the performance that Scott has performed here this afternoon.
Well, very well could be. And of course, his performance in the IndyCar, what races, 3 or 4 races he's run this year, have been extremely good. So I would imagine he'll, if he wants to do that, he'll have an IndyCar ride.
Well, at this point, the True Sports ride that was abandoned by Bobby Rahal is up for grabs for 1989, and some say that it's going to be Jeff Brabham. Others say it's going to be this guy, Scott Pruitt, and that announcement will be coming from True Sports in a few days or perhaps weeks. But you know that True Sports is watching this race and seeing the performance that Scott Pruitt is turning in here this afternoon. He is down the Thunder Valley portion of Road America on his last lap. He has just about 1.5 miles to go before receiving a checkered flag and winning his second SCCA Trans Am race of 1988.
Here he is through Canada Corner. Got just a couple more turns left. Back up under the bridge. Down the straightaway to turn 14. So he can almost kick it out of here and coast from here, I think.
Scott Pruitt from Roseville, Michigan in the Strollite Mercury XR4TI comes off of corner number 14, heads uphill, and the checkered flag is waving for him, and Scott Pruitt wins today's SCCA Trans Am race from Road America, leading wire to wire. And after about lap number 5, he began to pull away and really was not seriously challenged through the rest of the event. Second place is going to go to Hans Stuck in the Audi. And unofficially finishing in third position is going to be Willie T. Ribbs. Those are the first 3 finishers this afternoon at Road America. So the 1987 Drivers' Champion is not out of the woods by any means in quest of a second straight championship. He'll certainly pick up a few points here today. We'll be back in a moment.
World Driving Champion Jackie Stitt demonstrates how Scorpio offers all the performance you expect from a German touring sedan. Now, Jackie demonstrates one way Scorpio performs like no other German touring sedan. Scorpio, German performance you can be comfortable with at select Lincoln Mercury dealers.
Here are the top 10 finishers in the Trans Am here at Road America today. Scott Pruitt led flag to flag. Hans Stuck finished second, followed by Willie T. Ribbs, Hurley Haywood, and Ron Fellows. 6 through 10, Mike Chisuli, Jack Baldwin, Lynn St. James, Jim DerHaag, and Dick Danielson. Let's go to Victory Lane and Larry Newberg.
Well, the first thing this guy said when he got out of the car was, finally. This guy's won a lot of races, but why finally here at Elkhart Lake?
Well, it's just been tough. You know, victories was taken away from me last year and a couple years before, and this is where I got my start with Roush and with Ford here with the GTO, and now into the Trans Am divisions, and it's nice to finally come home on top.
Well, last week, a sterling performance in the Machinists Union Indianapolis car, and your name keeps coming up as a possible candidate for several rides in that division next year. What's the latest? This was important this week and looked good, wasn't it?
Well, it always is important, and I got to say thanks to, of course, Roush and Strohs and, of course, FAR for giving me the piece, because as I keep saying to everybody, you know, our deal came together late, and we kept trying to put it together, and So every time I can look good and continue to look good with good equipment, it just reinforces the fact to the people looking at me that, yeah, this guy can win races. So that's always important.
What about your prospects for next year? I know there's a lot you cannot reveal, but can you give us an idea, a couple of your better prospects that you might be going to?
Well, of course, Machinist Union, you know, I've been talking to them some. It depends on what they want to do. You know, we're really in a negotiating state, not really even in the negotiating stage. It depends on what Kevin does, so we're kind of waiting to see what happens there. And I'm talking to all the major teams.